Hello, this is Dread from Apprentice's Corner. In today's video topic, it's time for me to showcase the fully finished Serpent Strike build. Yes, it is pretty much finished. There are a few things that can be tuned about it, but it is completely finished in my opinion, other than a few gear tweaks. I managed to get to 275 and could have pushed further if I wasn't being dumb, but I'm pretty proud that I was able to push such a neglected class so far in the arena. And due to some issues as well, I think I'm technically rank 1 Primalist, technically. I mean, obviously, not much to brag considering nobody's playing Primalist right now, but I take it as a badge of honor. So, Serpent Strike, I ended up having to change it a little bit. I had to change the deck stacking part, as deck stacking was pretty good for damage wise, like on the dummy, but in terms of arena and stuff, like it was not worth it due to how squishy I was. I was at 1.4k HP. Well, after a complete re-gearing with vitality instead of dexterity, right, and some also as well, I got all my blessings, my resistance blessings, because Primalist doesn't have any gear, like any resistance on the tree, so you have to use your blessings for resistance, which sucks a little bit, but it's completely fine with this build. I managed to get over to 2.4k HP. You could probably get a little bit better if you squeezed out some better gear, but this is about the upper echelon of what you'll have. 2.4 is plenty. I did do this push without Berserker, the node that gives you 30% less damage taken while at low life. That could have saved me in a lot of situations, so I'm going to assume that I could have pushed a little bit harder. Like, this is probably going to be 300 at least wave viable, right? But obviously, I didn't push it, so I'm not going to clickbait the video with that, right? But Serpent Strike overall has been very strong. I'm very proud of it. It's done really well, and I'm hoping you guys will enjoy it too. So let's get into the build, shall we? Alright, here we are on our Beastmaster here. Don't tread on me, it's the same character. Finally got it to level 100 after pushing a bunch of arena keys with, obviously arena. Took a long time, but I managed to eventually get there. The complete re-gearing to vitality gear kind of fucked with me a little bit. I had to like pretty much remake almost every single piece of gear, including making a new belt as well and some new aspect of the Viper gear. So as you can tell, my aspect of the Viper gear isn't as good as it could be. Like tier 1 and tier 4, it could be way better, obviously. But the damage hasn't suffered that much, so we can do a DPS check here. Let me wait for my Maelstrom stacks to get up high enough. But yeah, I don't think we've lost much in terms of DPS. I think we were at like 200, 300k now. Like, yeah, like we lost like half our DPS, but like that's because I'm not like deck stacking, so I'm actually a lot stronger in this version due to being at like 2.3k HP, which is very strong. So the build itself is absolutely amazing, like for arena I found, and I'm gonna keep this and keep pushing it on my free time while I make other builds, right? It's definitely the most aesthetically pleasing character I've played in a while as well, right? Nice to finally give Serpent Strike the love it deserves, right? Well, let's talk about the skills, shall we? So we have Serpent Strike here. We take 6 points into Nagasa Venom because we want the poison chance and the poison duration, obviously. Then, of course, we're taking Venomous Intent. It reduces our poison duration by 35%, which is completely fine, as we're about at, instead of 6 seconds poison duration, this brings us down to about 4 seconds poison duration with a base of 3 seconds, so 4 seconds is pretty good. So we have this little projectile here. This projectile is really good in terms of like dealing with trash mobs. Like, for instance, I've had a lot of times in arena where I'll stay at range from something like obviously like a decayed flesh or something that has a big AoE like a frostworm or whatever, and I'll pretty much just hack away at them with this. It works pretty well. You can kind of smooth it in while you're like moving away. It's pretty strong, I found. It also procs aspect of the Viper for you as well, so you don't have to worry about that as well. But yeah, and then of course having Ice Thorns as well. And if you get close enough, you'll actually start doing the lightning from Maelstrom and all that. So Venomous Intent is definitely a very strong node in this tree. The poisons could be a lot stronger than that, but I wish they could be a lot stronger than that. But that's completely fine. Of course, we have Chrono Strike. I took out 1 point in Chrono Strike. I'll explain why later, but we get 40% increased damage over time per time we use Serpent Strike recently. Absolutely essential for the build, as this is where all of our damage comes from. Otherwise, we would have no damage. Then 2 points into Plague Bearer Travel. These Plague is absolutely worthless. Like doing like 50k ticks at max level, just absolutely worthless. And of course, Scorpion Strike here, global increased poison damage 60%. So we have 100% increased damage over time for our poisons per time we use Serpent Strike recently, and that seems to be enough for me. Obviously, this is where all of our damage is coming from. Allows us to turn our attack speed, right, from our wing guards and stuff, into pretty much more damage at that point. We're just heavily investing into attack speed, right? Heavily investing into it. That's what makes that very strong. And then, of course, we take 2 points into Primal Reflex. The main reason I did this was because since we're not deck stacking anymore, we have a lot less dodge than I wish we could. So being able to just get a little bit of flat dodge from Serpent Strike allows us to kind of bridge the gap. We also have Potion dodge as well, which helps a lot. So that's pretty much Serpent Strike. Pretty easy and simple tree, right? And of course, we have Maelstrom. Maelstrom's on autocast with 3 sacks into Whirlpool, 3 points into Sleet-Footed. That's where a lot of our flat dodge comes from, thank God. 4 points into Calm so that we can actually sustain like 5 Maelstroms at most of the time. 2 points into Arctic Blast, 1 point into Sudden Gale to turn an instant cast, 2 points into Chill. This is actually really strong, gives us a way of chilling without having to actually hit things, opens up our blessings and our tree for a lot of other things. And of course, Healing Winds as well. We require to run Healing Winds so that we have a way of sustaining, because we are running a Bleeding Heart for the Leech, right? And the Bleeding Heart will bleed us per time we've cast a spell recently, so we're taking a lot of damage over time. But thankfully, this Healing Winds is enough to save us from that, right? Then, of course, we take 1 point into Power of the Storm. Usually, this wouldn't be good for us because we're at 5 and 6, if you didn't know. But, of course, if we run Strong Tides, it'll be 5. So now we have an extra Lightning Blast that will proc as well, as you can tell. And it will proc our Aspect of the Viper, proc our Haste, proc all of our damage. It will also get the global damage from Aspect of the Viper. Very strong indeed. It just doesn't get our duration, obviously, but that's it. Then, of course, we have Ice Thorns as well. Ice Thorns is set up so that we can just run a 100% crit strike avoidance pretty much most of the time here. All this crit strike avoidance is very strong, gives us more slots on the gear. Otherwise, without it, this build would be a lot worse without Ice Thorns, so it did definitely come and save the day. Everything else is kind of not worth it other than obviously the crit strike avoidance node. So we take 1 point travel into Anophelia, 1 point into Thorn Shield, 1 point into Second Nature to bring it down to an instant cast so we can auto cast it. 6 points into Floric Tide, which brings it all the way down to 1 second if you didn't know. Also gives us 30% crit strike avoidance, very strong. 3 points into Bark Shield for armor, gives us a little bit of armor, like 27% damage reduction, pretty strong. And of course, 3 points into Ice Shield duration, 4 points into recast chance, so that we almost always have the 120% up. It's kind of like up and down, up and down, up and down. It's dependent. It's very RNG reliant, but it's completely fine because you don't get crit every single time, right? And of course, we have Emblem of Might, which allows us to bring this to 0 cost, so that while we have our Najinta here, it's at 0 cost, so it's always going, unlike the other spells, right? Then, of course, we have Tornado. Tornado setup, we have 3 points into duration, 4 points into double cast, it doesn't matter, travel, 1 point into Eye of the Storm travel, then 1 point into Snap Gale, which brings it to instant cast, so we can have it always around us, right, like it is. Then, of course, we have Aspect of the Storm, which gives us 10% increased movement speed. Very strong, means that we can dump our silver rings and run gold rings as well, so this movement speed buff is very strong for us. 4 points into Gust of Renewal for the aspect of the Storm mana regen, and obviously some mana efficiency for Tornado. Then, of course, 3 points into Storm Dervish for the attack speed. Attack speed is God for us. And then 2 points into duration. You could probably take 1 point out of Charge Storm and put it into Swift Wings. That would probably be better overall. And of course, we have Frenzy Totem, the general Frenzy Totem setup. 5 points into Reinforced Totem, so it survives longer. 4 points into Grounded. None of this really matters for us, except for Dig In, where we get the 100% increased damage if we're tethered. 1 point into Revitalizing Totem Travel, 5 points into Venomous Intent, so we get global poison damage, very strong, then 4 points into Frenzy Effect, so we get about 30 attack speed when we throw our totem down, and it puts us all the way up to like 200% increased attack speed, perfect for killing Maroon Ogres in the arena, right, or bosses in the Monolith. And that's pretty much it for the skills today. Now we can talk about the passive tree. So passive tree is pretty easy here. So we have 6 points into Gift of the Wilderness for HP, 3 points Travel, Primal Strength, 5 points into Hunter's Restoration. This node was actually buffed. Now it gives increased health, which is very strong, helps Primalist a lot. 5 points into Ancient Call so that we get more HP. Then, of course, 5 points into Berserker because in Arena, if we go about 700, 600 HP, we get another 30% less damage taken, which is very strong for Arena. Keeps you from getting one-shotted a lot. And of course, we have 5 points travel into Ancient Stone so that we can grab Tornado. Eventually, you could probably mess around the tree, put 1 point into Silent Protector, and grab 5 points into Totemic Fury so that we have even more attack speed with Frenzy Totem, but I don't know if that's worth it necessarily or not. If you really care about, if you're like caring about Monolith more than that, you could probably go for Totemic Fury for more single target DPS. Then of course we have 5 points into Barkskin and 5 points into Woodlore. These are your like last 10 points. You don't have to worry about that too much. Just more HP obviously. 8 points into Earthsign Strength, very strong. You always want to be nearby enemies with this build because of the way it works. And I believe nearby is this little circle here. So anything nearby here is damage reduced, I believe. And of course, we have 6 points into Feline Bond for that flat dodge, 5 points into Boarheart for 5 seconds on board aspect of the board duration. You could probably dump this down to 4 seconds since we proc it so much anyways. 5 points into Call of the Pack, 5 points into Porcine Constitution, damage reduction granted, so we have 30% damage reduction from that. Then of course 3 points into Primal Strength, it gives us aspect of the boar on melee strike chance so that most of the time we have aspect of the boar up, very strong for us as well. 10 points into Hawkwing to give us 100% increased dodge rating, and also gives us haste on hit 100% of the time. So when we're rolling through monoliths, our Tornado, our Maelstrom, and our Ice Thorns are always giving us haste, so we can pretty much just run through monoliths. It helps a lot when you're trying to farm for your blessings like I was, and you had to do like 6 Rise in a row just to get the resistance blessing. Then of course we have 8 points in the Life in the Wilderness. This is a very strong node. It's like 15 plus health, I believe. Yeah, it's like 15 health per node. Very, very strong. 10 points into Viper Fangs because it's attack speed and aspect of the Viper on hit. The attack speed is amazing for us, obviously. Of course, aspect of the Viper gives you 100% increased chance of poison on a hit, then 100% increased damage over time. Then, of course, we take 10 points into Rattlesnake. Rattlesnake, now, this increased poison effect granted, it is part of the aspect of the Viper buff, meaning that if we get increased Viper effect, like here, 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 and here, it will increase the general amount of damage that our poisons do. As you can tell, right here, we can look at our tree here, see our poison damage. Oh, 1 second here, let me lose aspect of the Viper. Normally our poison damage is 62, but as soon as we get aspect of the Viper here, it goes all the way up to like 200-ish, something like that, 230. Very strong for us as well. So obviously very, very strong. The whole reason why we have enough damage, otherwise we wouldn't have enough damage to clear the monolith and all that, so hopefully they don't nerf that. So that's pretty much it for the skill tree. It's pretty easy. It's a lot of HP and stuff, obviously. There's nothing fancy going on other than the aspect of the Viper stacking. Now for gear, you want aspect of the Viper, as much aspect of the Viper that as you can get. You want 25% on each of these. Doesn't matter what else you have on it, you just want 25% on each, and if you can snack 25%, amazing, right? I have really shitty idols as well. This is like my best one though, right? But obviously you want a lot better than that. Then of course on our helmets we have aspect of the Viper, that's the most important thing, as well as percent HP. We have Bleeding Heart because it's the only way in the game that a Beastmaster could leech from their poisons, giving us like a lot of sustain while in the arena. It's very strong when we're doing gigantic poisons, obviously, because it works for everything. And it is bleeding us per second we're casting spells, but thanks to the healing winds, we don't have to worry about that, which helps a lot, right? Then, of course, our weapon. You want a Najinta, and the reason why that is because you see the base attack rate at 1.05, right? Well, all the other polearms in the game have a base attack rate of 0.97, so it's actually not worth it to play any other polearm other than this one specifically. So I would heavily suggest Najinta. Obviously, you want the damage over time roll, increased attack speed. This is a pretty shitty rolled weapon. You could get way better. Chance to poison on hit, and for the last affix, you could probably go for attributes. So you can go for like 5 vitality and go for more HP, or you could get HP on hit. Either way, be honest, you don't really need the last suffix, so you can kind of like craft around that and pretend it doesn't exist, and it makes your crafting for this way easier. And of course, for the chest, you want the normal chest setup with dodge, percentage, vitality, increased health, and especially aspect of the Viper effect. Tier 5 aspect of the Viper effect helps so much, gives you so much Viper effect, because if you don't have the idols, this is where you can get it. You can get it from gambling, or you can get it from, obviously, doing the model. It's very strong. And of course, we're running 2 gold rings because I wanted more Ellie res. We are using the, where is it? Bastion of Divinity, and we're also using the like I said, gold rings as well. So with the res setup we are capped res barely, which helps because Beastmaster needs all the help it can get when it comes to capping its res. Vitality, HP. This ring is actually one of the best items on this character. Ironically, it is a tier 20. I believe it's tier 20, right? It's tier 20, tier 19. Is it fractured? Do we do it on stream, guys? Do we do it? All right, tier 20, there you go. So we're just going to pretend that didn't happen. There's my tier 20 ring. Absolutely amazing. Might move that to other builds as well. Holy shit, that ring's amazing. Of course, we have this Ranger's belt. This one's really strong too. This is about tier 18. You want dodge potion. You want dodge on potion use. Helps us against the more annoying things like frostworms, right? Percentage dodge, increased health. Course, for rings, they're just your resistance. Like your rings are just all resistance pretty much, and as much HP as you can slam on it, right? You definitely 100% want wing guards because the 200 flat dodge, the increased melee attack speed as well, very strong. I don't technically need the percentage physical res, but it's nice to have that there. Obviously, you want the best rolled wing guards you can get. The chance to gain haste on hit doesn't matter because we already have a 100% chance to gain haste on hit, so that's worthless. And the critical strikes thing literally does not matter. And of course, we have boots, movement speed, and dodge percentage. Instead of that health, you could have hybrid health. That's the only difference I would change. Everything else doesn't matter. And of course, for our Stained Totem, we have dodge percentage. Everything else is just focused on resistance capping. As you can tell, it's very hard to cap resistances as a Beastmaster thanks to having no assistance from the tree for resistances. So that's where most of your gear is going to go, is resistances. And for blessing as well, since now I'm finally doing blessings now, right? We'll talk about blessings. You want Grand Echo of Solarum for the physical and void res from Rai, then from Lagan, you want elemental res. I could get a much better roll if I went for the empowered roll, but I'm not going to farm empowered Lagan. I'm not going to do it right now. If you farmed for a better roll, you could dump one gold ring and run a silver ring for a little bit more movement speed, because movement speed is king. And of course, our last one is necrotic and poison res. This was actually pretty easy. Only took 1 run, while the Rai took like 5 rolls, right? And then for Follow the Outcast, until you get up to 100, you want the experience, and then once you get up to the 100 mark, you want gold instead, right? All right, that's pretty much it for the build this time. I'd like to thank you all for coming out, and have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Also as well, I am playing on standard from now on for a while, so if you guys have any build suggestions, please ask and I'll assist. Also as well, I forgot, Void. So to fix our Void res, you need to re-roll this Void res here, add 5%, and then you need to, where is it? Re-roll this Grand Power of the Solarum, as well. Grand Echo's Alarm, but it's such a small, insignificant thing. It doesn't matter for you, obviously, but it would be nice if you could cap that, right? And we actually have almost decent poison res thanks to obviously Druid, right? And we can get even more if we wanted to, if we really wanted to. Like I said, the only thing I would change is find a way to grab this Totemic Fury, but it's such a small little outset because it's like I don't really use Frenzy Totem much unless if it's like on a single target like a Maruna Ogre or something. So it's not as important and we're not using it all the time. It is good against monolith bosses, like I said, but this build has no issues with monolith bosses now thanks to the way it's set up. With that being said, thank you all for watching and have one of the rest of your day, and bye!